From my book Surcease of Sorrow, Sorrow for the Lost Lenore, and the silken sad uncurrent rustling of each purple curtain. From the book Surcease of Sorrow, meaning he has something in his life that is making him miserable in his current time, driving him to express his misery, like reading books of sorrow to let it out. The sorrow comes from the misery of grief, the loss of his Lenore. Losing her possibly made him crazy, of driving him off the idea of living happy ever again. Silken, sad, uncurrent rustling of the currents so dim and hollow that even the environment is even convincing. That his mind is beyond poison, out of his control of each purple current, motion of rustling. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Thrilling the narrator with fantastic terror could mean glooming aura that doesn't even scare him, to the point not feeling any emotion of distress could very much be signs of red flags. Presently the soul of the narrator growing stronger to do what he is hesitating no longer, holding back the fantastic terrors that could rip him apart from this living world, to be with his lost love, Lenore. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. He opened wide the door, means he did the action of opening the door. That could mean he's not afraid of facing even his fears. That no longer terrifies him, but instead thrills him to seek out is a red flag that his mental health is not in a healthy spot at the moment. However, the silence unbroken in the stillness of time, not making the still sound of peaceful didn't last. Apparently that is not the reward. With happiness, supposedly is what he's trying to tell us in the narration of his poem. And the only word there was spoken was the whispered word Lenore. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. The only word he could say, in a whispered word from Lenore. Could that mean that he's obsessed with any way to connect with his lost love? Which means any unnatural moment could mean a paranormal activity that can hear his Lenore's voice. Soon again, after the moment of opening the door, he heard an unnatural louder noise that thrilled him again, instead of freaking him out, which again shows where his head is at, which is concerning. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, it turns out to be the wind and nothing out of the ordinary, which shows this narrator needs help mentally so he can move on in life. But he can't while being isolated in this chamber. But it shouldn't be thrilling when something at the very least scary, or ignoring it like he usually does, because we only know the present life of his so far in this poem. Yes, he opened the shutter to get a breath of fresh air, or what's left of it during the winter. In there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling. Just when he got some fresh air in the winter of all things, there stepped a stately raven, that time past of his happiest days. And now this raven symbolizes his mental health, possibly of decaying his life, which is the most worst sign of how far he will go. This bird attracting the narrator's sad, fancy, gloomy, grieving face into smiling, because he is so miserable he needs a final way to know he's coming back to his happiest days, I suppose. Ghastly grim, an ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Much I marveled, this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly. This ghastly grim ancient raven, wandering in his chamber in the nightly land, near his house, then to his chamber. The odds of that is overwhelmingly impossible. That would need to be a confused raven or an actual supernatural superstition that needs convincing to help him from whether Satan or death to say there's no coming back now that you seek a messenger. You can't have a normal life, much as the narrator is admired by this damn raven. To hear so plainly of what it said, that it straight up feels like a talking raven would be a sign that he needs a mental check. But instead, he's now obsessed with what this raven is now a spiritual guide to death, wisdom of the messenger of death. Bird or beast upon the sculpture bust above his chamber door, but the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only. The bird in real life in this life reality check, this bird is nothing but a beast in mythology, which is also a thing is common with real world nouns. Upon a sculpture bust above the chamber door of the narrator, which the raven sitting lonely on bust spoke on word that is crucial to the entire story. I left on my PowerPoint slide that shows what the word that the raven spoke. Only the word that drove him talking to all, even if it was the real world, and not a delusional dream. That one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster, that one word, as if the narrator's soul caught an outpour unhappy master of whatever unmerciful disaster, told this raven to go mess with mentally unfit for society. And if this narrator was to go outside, I believe this would be a dangerous idea, because the chamber is like an isolated location where the narrator only logs his misery in. Followed fast and followed faster, till his song one burden bore. Straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird in bustin' door. Followed by this realization, this bird makes the worst song that burden bore into the narrator's head, to the point wheeled himself into a cushioned seat in front of raven on damaged room of the chamber, seeing that even solitude is a prison that he cannot escape from, the only place where his mind goes to wander for misery expression. What's this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore? This I said, engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing. This ghostly and paranormal and ominous bird of decay sat the narrator to engage in guessing what he is seeing in front of him, a talking bird in the real world, while the raven shows no expression on his face. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining. Then, methought the air grew denser, perfume from an unseen censer. So this caused the narrator sat there diving with his head at ease, reclining, with the entire environment of the chamber giving a terrible vibe than it did originally, driving him further into madness by grief of his Lenore, which this raven is sucking and absorbing. It seems in a superstition way of making it more apparent to stay in the chamber along with him. Swung by Seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil. Swung by divine presence in his perception at this point, as he appears to be losing his grip on the real world, he screams prophet, thing of evil, if bird or devil, which could mean he is rambling like a psychotic person who's losing his grip on reality. By distorted reality, belief in isolation is taking a hold of him on the ideal of demonic or divine interaction. On this home, by horror haunt, tell me truly, I implore, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. He says the word for word this home, meaning chamber, as it decays with his mind tearing from a grip on the real world. He asks, is his sainted woman named Lenore gripped on angel's arm, meaning she is at peace with his life being on the living side of life, which he believes the messenger is here for that exact reason? Clasp a rare and radiant maiden